everybody, this is Deb with Truthification Chronicles, and I'm going to do this unedited. I hope I do okay. Sometimes my mouth doesn't go the way I want it to, so I'm going to do the best I can, but it will just be a whole lot easier for me if I don't have to do any cuts on this because the cutting mechanism on this particular software that I'm using is not real precise, and so it makes it a lot harder to do edits. Anyway, so I've got three different letters to share with you. I'm not going to read all of them, well, at least not all of this one because it's 12 pages long. And most of it I can sum up, so I'll sum it up when I get there. Anyway, this is dated May 8th, and it is to the Honorable Lindsey O. Graham, Chairman, Committee on the Judiciary. And this would be by the Democrats on that committee. Sorry about that. I tell you, I'm just kind of dealing with weird stuff here, but I'm getting better with it. Oh, I'm going to be so glad when I get my computer back up and running. So, yeah, it'll be soon. Anyway, this is from the Democrats on the committee, and again, Dianne Feinstein is the ranking member of the Senate Judiciary. And so this is what they have to say. Dear Mr. Chairman, we are writing as members of the Judiciary Committee to follow up on our request that the committee hold a hearing with Special Counsel Mueller regarding his report on Russian electoral interference and objective and obstruction, and obstruction of justice. Told you I'd make mistakes. Sorry. The Mueller report is a seminal document that caps the special counsel's nearly 2-year investigation into Russian interference in the 2016 election. However, as comprehensive as the report is, yeah, it's 400 and some pages, it's clear there are many outstanding questions that remain unanswered. Well, I did a video for 25 questions that they should ask him. Anyway, and links will be down below, just like usual. Having special counsel Mueller before the committee is necessary to get those questions answered. So, the attached document identifies at least 60 unanswered questions related to both Russian interference and obstruction of justice. We believe Robert Mueller would be best suited to answer these and other questions from both sides of the aisle, and we feel the committee would benefit greatly from his testimony. We therefore respectfully request a hearing so members might have the opportunity to ask these and other questions of Special Counsel Mueller directly and receive his answers. I appreciate your consideration for this request. And of course, it's, Dianne Feinstein and Leahy, and it's just all of them. They're all signed on here. Amazing. That'll be fun, won't it? Anyway, you just look at the names and you're like, I don't even want to hear these people asking questions. What kind of questions are they going to ask? Well, it's nothing surprising here, folks. You'll probably guess what they are anyway. Essentially, I'll just save you the time. It's about 60 questions that can all be summed up by saying, hey, Mueller, can't you give us some dirt on Trump so we can impeach this guy? I mean, really, it's almost like that. Now, there were a couple questions that they asked that actually were legitimate questions about how can we, one of them was about stopping illegal, passing on illegal material that's been stolen or something like that, documents. So, if it was talking about what kind of legislation can Congress pass to prevent that from happening again. But, I think it was just mostly so that, nobody can do that to the DNC again and steal their stuff and pass it on. But of course, we know who did that, and it was not the Russians, because Julian Assange himself has said that several times. So we know he did not get this information from the Russians, so therefore, that was not who got the information from the DNC, all those emails, and passed it on to WikiLeaks. So, that part of this whole Mueller report is inaccurate. And I kind of wonder if maybe some of the Republicans might question that because, well, I don't know. The problem we have is that we know the truth. A lot of us know the truth. But we also have this issue with they've got to perpetuate this Russian, hacking narrative. And until the actual, server itself comes out, that question is going to remain, or until they get Julian Assange on the stand. That should be interesting too. But, when I read through all these, questions that they have here, one thing struck me, and it's that in a lot of situations, it was one person saying Trump said this, and then Trump said something different. And in every case, and especially it really happens that way in the Mueller report, the whole report itself, and of course these questions, in every case where there were two people saying things and one of them was Trump saying something different than what somebody else who was there said, they always assume Trump is the liar. That Trump's version of it is not the truth. And you can't really do that when you are being, if you're going to be fair and unbiased, you really have to look at both sides of it, because just because you don't like one person, you can't assume that everything they say is wrong. You just can't. And, like the situation with McGahn and Trump, they're so trying to pick on that. And they're trying to make it so that, McGahn is the one who is in the right, and McGahn's version of it is accurate, and Trump is lying. That's what they're saying. But that's not necessarily what happened. And when you have a situation of a he said, in this case, that's what it is. It's two people and they're saying something about it. Then you have to look back and you have to see other things. And we know that when Trump was talking to McGahn, he wasn't saying fire Mueller and stop this investigation. He was saying, we need to look at Mueller's conflicts. They need to be put out there so people understand that he's conflicted and that he really should recuse himself. And they need to put someone else in that position. Now, see, that's not obstructing justice. To obstruct justice would be fire Mueller and stop this investigation. That would be obstructing it. But what Trump did, no. And McGahn said it just slightly different, and they're really capitalizing on this. So, trying to paint Trump as a liar. And that's what you'll find throughout all of these questions. It's pretty much, the Trump team was lying and all these people were lying, and Papadopoulos was at the heart of this. And, did you really find information? To what degree was your office able to assess the credibility of assertions by various campaign officials? This is calling into to question their idea of who was telling the truth and who wasn't. And, they said, well, Papadopoulos was credible in what he was saying. And now they're saying, well, are you sure he was? And so again, if you go through and read these, really it is just a summary of why didn't you find something, Mueller? And how do you expect us to impeach Trump if you're exonerating him? So that really is the whole issue here. So I'll leave that down below. You can read it on your own if you want to and go through all those 60 questions. But I think the 25 questions that the other article that I posted asked, I think those are probably better questions to ask. So I don't know. And I'm sure the Republicans will have some good things if he does make it. However, I don't believe Mueller is going to show up on the 15th, like everybody's saying, Then the reason for that is because the somebody, and I can't remember who it was probably Lindsey Graham that said it. And, things have been a little weird because I can't do my research like I normally do. I'm really thrown off. And so I haven't been keeping track of things quite as well as I normally do. But um, somebody, and again, I think it was Lindsey Graham, said that he hadn't given enough, there wasn't enough lead time. It may have been Doug Collins. That there hadn't been enough lead time to solidify Mueller actually being there, so he didn't think Mueller would show up. So I don't think he's going to. It's not on the schedule yet, so I really don't think Mueller is going to be there on the 15th. Now, whether he shows up later on, maybe next week or something. That's up in the air. But lots of stuff is going to happen. And so, anyway, this is from Lindsey Graham, and it is to Mike Pompeo. And this was on the 10th. And he says, Dear Secretary Pompeo, as you may be aware, several congressional committees have been investigating, yes, I can read, by the way, among other things, a dossier of opposition research compiled by Christopher Steele that was used to obtain a Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act warrant to surveil Carter Page and possibly others associated with the presidential campaign of Donald J. Trump. By the way, if you hear a low rumbling, that's my cat. Yeah, I have a cat that is just being very clingy today, and he purrs really, really, really loud. Anyway, as part of those investigations, it has been revealed that then Deputy Assistant Secretary for European and Eurasian Affairs, Kathleen Kavalek, was in communication with Steele. And that was from the Bruce Orr, the number one there, footnote, is from the Bruce Orr testimony. It was unclear until recently, however, how significant her communications with Steele may have been. Indeed, according to the documents obtained in Freedom of Information Act litigation with the department, Ms. Kavalek met with Steele 10 days prior to the issuance of the initial Carter Page FISA warrant and was told by Steele that he was keen to see this information, the dossier, come to light prior to November 8th. And the two there, is another footnote about where that quote was. The date of the 2016 presidential election. This is important information that further demonstrates the bias of the primary source of material that was the basis for the Carter Page FISA warrant. In addition, recent reporting by John Solomon suggests that Ms. Kavalek's contacts with Steele may have been the most significant and memorialized communications with him by a U.S. government official prior to the issuance of the Carter Page FISA warrant. And again, the footnotes are pretty much just documenting where that comes from. In light of this newly disclosed information, the committee requests that the department produce the following documents no later than May 23rd. Okay, so we've got a deadline, May 23rd. All documents and communications created on or after May 1st, 2016 relating to any communication between Christopher Steele and employees or officials of the Department of State, including Kathleen Kavalek. So they want that, and all documents and communications created on or after May 1st, 2016, between employees or officials of the Department of State, including Kathleen Kavalek, and employees or officials of the Department of Justice, including Bruce Orr, relating to Christopher Steele, the presidential campaign of Donald J. Trump, or anyone associated with the Trump campaign. In addition, I request that the department make Ms. Kavalek available for a transcribed interview. And then, you can contact here. Thank you for your prompt attention to this matter. So let's see what happens there. Is he going to get it from Pompeo? Well, that could be interesting. I think if it's up to Pompeo, he'll get the information that he's looking for. However, if there are intermediaries, Pompeo's a pretty busy guy, and he's the top guy, so he's not always the one that sees, that does the things. He tells someone else to do it. He delegates. So I don't know. It all depends on who he delegates it to, I guess. And that will be interesting to see if that's produced. Well, there's another letter on the same day Lindsey Graham sent to Horowitz. And he sent it basically, it says pretty much the same thing as what he told Pompeo. I'll read it to you. It's only a couple pages. It's really short. Dear Mr. Horowitz, I write with respect to new information that has recently been revealed regarding the extent and content of communications between Kathleen Kavalek, the former Deputy Assistant Secretary, Bureau of European and Eurasian Affairs at the State Department, and Christopher Steele. These new details about her communications with Steele are troubling and may directly impact the investigation your office is conducting into potential misuse of the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act, FISA, to surveil individuals associated with the presidential campaign of Donald J. Trump. As you are likely aware, according to the documents obtained in Freedom of Information Act litigation with the State Department, Ms. Kavalek met with Steele 10 days prior to the issuance of the initial Carter Page FISA warrant and was told by Steele that he was keen to see this information in the dossier come to light prior to November 8th, the date of the 2016 presidential election. And it was a great date, too, wasn't it? This important information further demonstrates the bias of the primary source of material that was the basis for the Carter Page FISA warrant. In addition, recent reporting by John Solomon suggests that Ms. Kavalek's contacts with Steele may have been the most significant and memorialized communications with him by a U.S. government official prior to the issuance of the Carter Page FISA warrant. As you continue your important investigation into potential FISA abuse surrounding the 2016 election, I request that you include, if you have not already, consideration of this new information regarding State Department involvement with the Carter Page FISA warrant, the Steele dossier, and direct communications between State Department officials and Steele. So this is what he's asking for, and he's asking that Horowitz will, look for this information and will use it as part of the investigation if he hasn't already. I kind of tend to think maybe he already has, but we can't verify what Horowitz has completed and what he hasn't, but I'm pretty sure that he is doing a lot of things. I was listening to, I think it was Rush today, or could have been Hannity. I'm not sure. I was listening on the radio, and I don't remember which one it was that said it, but they were talking about how the Horowitz during the state, when Hillary Clinton was doing some things in the State Department about the emails, that this came out, and that it was already being addressed by Horowitz. So, and also the Inspector General, I believe, for the State Department was already investigating it. Now, I know a lot of you are saying, well, see, Horowitz was a Obama guy, so how do we know he's not going to, go all Democrat on us? Well, the reason is because Horowitz is pretty well thought of on both sides of the aisle, and that Horowitz was pointing things out during the Obama administration. It's just that all he can do is point things out and make recommendations for criminal referrals. That's all he can do. He can't prosecute. And then you have to give it over to the DOJ and let the DOJ prosecute. Well, in Obama's administration, Loretta Lynch and before that, Eric Holder, they surely weren't going to prosecute anybody of their own that was doing something because they were supporting it. They were enablers. Let them do it. And that's why Obama can sit there with a straight face and say, there wasn't a smidgen of scandal. Yeah, no, there was a lot of scandal. Yeah, there wasn't a smidgen, there was a lot. But the reason there were no scandals is because they don't prosecute themselves. I mean, you don't get these criminals to narc on other criminals. And so, of course, it looked like it was, scandal free. Well, it's all coming out now. So we're going to find out that it really was not. Of course, most of us already know that, right? And so I wanted to point those out to you, and I thought you'd be interested. I don't know what's going to happen, and I really don't. I hope that Pompeo, or at least somebody in the State Department, produces this by May 23rd. Could be very interesting to see what's going on here and what the documents are. Right? So, and you'll notice too that they mentioned the Freedom of Information Act litigation. I kind of wonder if that's Judicial Watch that's doing that because they've been doing a lot of it. And much of what we know has come from their FOIA requests and the litigation that they've done on that because, it's not being put out there very easily. And they're having to go to court and to sue for it. And so they are winning a lot of cases. More and more stuff is coming out. I recommend that you keep track of Judicial Watch and the stuff that they're uncovering right now because it's pretty good stuff. And so keep an eye on them. I also want to give you a heads up on Doug Collins. And by the way, if I ever say Doug Jones, I may misspeak and say that. I have a friend whose name was Doug Jones, and he's actually a kind of, you know, actor right now. And so, and he was in the news not too long ago, and so that tends to come out. And I know there's a Doug Jones that is also a Democrat, in congressman, I believe, and so pardon me if I do that. It just kind of comes out. But Doug Collins is going to be releasing more testimony this week, and we don't know who he's releasing. There are some people saying that maybe it's Comey's testimony. That could be interesting, but we've already seen some. I don't know what it's going to look like. I don't know who it's going to be, but there's 53 people that he has testimony of that I think he's probably eventually going to release. How many is he going to release? I don't know. He could release several. So we just kind of have to keep tabs on that. And he's been usually releasing them on Twitter. If you follow him on Twitter, you can see when he releases it, watch his tweets. And so that's what I've got for you on this one. I want to thank you for stopping by and putting up with all my computer issues that I'm having right now. But it'll be fixed soon, and we'll be back to, once I get everything reinstalled, I'll be back to normal. Huh? If that ever happens. So, anyway, I want to thank you again for your support and everything. You guys are great. And so I will see you in the next one.